to all the Web3 enthusiasts out there. This is Mike speaking, and welcome to the new exciting episode of Synopsis. Please meet our today's guest, a newbie at Synopsis, Bhau Kotecha, the co-founder and leading executive at Paxos Labs. How Bhau? Hello, Bhau. Sorry. How is it going?
No worries. It's going great. Thanks for having me on, Max. Excited to be here.
Well, kind of a positive, I would say, beginning, and I do hope that the discussion will be in the same way easygoing. Well, we have a bunch of questions prepared for today, and if you don't mind, let's get straight to the action, dive into Paxos Labs and what's going on there.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I believe that you wanted to make some intro, and the same thing I wanted to do as well. So since it's your first time at Synopsis, could you please go ahead and briefly provide us with a bit of background on yourself as well on Paxos Labs?
Yeah, totally. As you mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Paxos Labs, and kind of a interesting path to this place today. I think going back, I actually started my career in FinTech, working at Square and Cash App. And during my time there, I really started to see, kind of the 2010s evolution of FinTech was very much kind of a innovation around the user experience, how people interact with money really on the front end. Working at a FinTech for, like Square and Cash App for almost 6 years, I started to see, the fintechs are really innovating on the front end experience, but the back end was really still broken. And companies were trying to abstract that away from customers, but it was really painful and very clear that there was something kind of broken on that back end. And one of the things, I was thinking about, especially because I saw how hard it is to do customer acquisition as a fintech, one of the things that started to turn in my head was, okay, obviously crypto and blockchain is a better back end. But I think what's going to happen is that the leading fintechs of today, the ones that have existing distribution, the Squares, the PayPals, the new banks of the world, are going to slowly re-platform their system to be blockchain based. I don't necessarily think it will all be, just net new apps that are completely built up from the blockchain. And so during that time, I got a chance to meet Charles Cascarilla, who's the CEO of Paxos, and I think his vision for the future of finance and replatforming the financial system was very similar, right? He really saw that the banks, the fintechs of the world today are going to slowly replatform their systems and serve customers better by leveraging blockchain rails. And so that brought me to Paxos, which, Paxos's core business has really been providing regulated blockchain infrastructure to customers. So a couple of examples here. If you go on your Venmo app or your PayPal app today and you buy Bitcoin, that is actually powered by Paxos's regulated crypto brokerage as a service infrastructure. Same thing with players like Nubank, Mercado Libre, Interactive Brokers, all leverage Paxos's crypto brokerage infrastructure, all within a regulated framework. Additionally, Paxos has been an issuer of stablecoins, right? Paxos is obviously the issuer of PYUSD, which is PayPal stablecoin, but is also the issuer of USDG on behalf of the global dollar network, which includes partners such as Kraken, Robinhood, Anchorage, and many others. And then Paxos also does orchestration and payments around stablecoins. So really like kind of the full suite of kind of enterprise grade stablecoin and crypto brokerage infrastructure. And one of the things we had been thinking about for a long time at Paxos was Paxos is kind of the entryway for a lot of these enterprises starting their blockchain journey, right? Where do they usually start? They usually start with, integrating crypto brokerage or starting with stablecoins, maybe stablecoin payments. But one of the things we started thinking about, especially, I'm sure people in your audience know, if you've been in crypto for a while, once you get access to crypto assets or stablecoins, the natural question then is, well, what do I do with it now, right? What can I do with these things? And one of the things, we've always been keeping a close eye on and became increasingly impressed with was the number of on-chain financial services that were becoming available, right? Thinking about protocols like Morpho or Aave, where they're enabling people to earn yield or borrow against their assets, perpetuals trading, all these things that are happening on chain that people are doing with their crypto assets. And one of the things that we kind of decided was like, hey, we think that eventually, these enterprises are starting with crypto buy, hold, sell, and stable coins, but they're going to move to these on-chain services. They're going to move to accessing things like lending markets, accessing things like perps, accessing things like decentralized swaps. And so what we kind of decided was, as Paxos is really focusing on kind of this regulated enterprise infrastructure across stablecoins and crypto brokerage, we decided to spin out a new entity called Paxos Labs, which is obviously backed by Paxos. But Paxos Labs is very much focused on kind of building for kind of on-chain native, DeFi native ecosystems and starting to experiment what's coming there, and specifically kind of packaging up those solutions and getting them to a place where they are enterprise ready, and so that enterprises can actually integrate some of these on-chain solutions.
Well, thanks. A great beginning, super detailed, with great examples. And thanks for sharing the solid background you have. So everyone, I think, has no doubt that there is a real expert sitting in front of us right now. And before getting to the main part of today's discussion, we get to highlight one small question, but a very important one. Could you please tell what is Paxos Labs and how it actually differs from Paxos?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, Paxos is focused on providing regulated blockchain infrastructure to enterprises, right? And particularly focused around crypto brokerage as a service and stablecoin issuance and stablecoin payments. What we're really focused on the Paxos Lab side is building products more specifically that are leveraging on-chain markets, right? And so some of the things that we're talking about are building on top of existing tokenized assets like USDG, but also creating SDKs and APIs where enterprises can access things like lending markets, trading markets directly through their own interface. And so the idea is, how do we actually expose some of these on-chain financial services directly to these enterprises to integrate into their experience in a way that is enterprise friendly? And so the way I would put it is Paxos Labs is really focused on kind of looking at the next frontier of on-chain financial services and how do we get those ready to be accessible for enterprises and their end users.
Awesome. So now everything is in order. And let's discuss one of the hottest recent news. So I know that Paxos Labs recently announced the launch of USDG Zero, a bridged version of the USDG stablecoin. Can you provide some details behind USDG Zero and how it works?
Yeah. So we just announced USDG Zero on Tuesday, which is really exciting. Initially available on Hyperliquid and Aptos and Plume coming soon. But USDG Zero expands the reach and access to USDG, which is a stablecoin issued by Paxos that powers the global dollar network, which I mentioned consists of several large enterprises and companies. And one of the things that USDG Zero does, it enables USDG to be accessible, or a version of USDG to be accessible across across additional crypto ecosystems and blockchains. And the idea kind of is, hey, like, USDG is only natively available on so many networks today, but there's increasing demand for an asset that represents kind of like USDG's profile. And so USDG Zero is kind of a bridged or a cross-chain version of USDG. And the kind of key value propositions and like why we see interest in USDG Zero, especially, I don't know if you've been following some of the kind of latest like depeg activities around certain kind of like yield-bearing stable coins depegging and causing a lot of challenges in the ecosystem. I think people are becoming increasingly aware of how important it is to have a trusted stablecoin as kind of the baseline of your ecosystem. Today, everything in blockchain ecosystems really builds off of stablecoins. That ends up being the core part of the economy of a blockchain ecosystem or a protocol. And so I think the value of like having a very trusted asset, again, USDG, its reserves are regulated and set to a certain standard that is truly enterprise grade. And USDG Zero is one-to-one backed by USDG. So you kind of benefit from that level of trust, knowing that you're getting a safe, trusted asset to build your ecosystem around. I think the second piece that's interesting is the way USDG Zero is designed is that it enables instant liquidity against existing USDG, right? So there's about $1.1 billion of USDG in circulation today. In partnership with LayerZero, we built a way for users to get USDG Zero in new ecosystems by minting directly against USDG. So usually when you launch a new stablecoin, you have some of the cold start problem of like, how do we actually get liquidity and how do we actually start to mint the initial assets? And some of this gets solved because there is an existing pool of liquidity that can be leveraged to mint USDG zero. And then last but not least, and probably maybe the most important, the way USDG and USDG zero have been designed is to share a percentage of the rewards back with the ecosystems, protocols, platforms that actually drive the adoption of the stablecoin. And we very much believe kind of the next iteration of stablecoins is one where the participants are rewarded for driving the adoption of the asset versus just a single issuer keeping all of the benefits that come from issuance.
Awesome. So now we have a pretty detailed but still general idea of how it all works and how it is designed. And of course, USDG zero will be one of the major topics today. And I have several more questions to dive deeper into how it works and what it brings. So the first one is how does USDG zero unlock new applications for USDG, particularly in the DeFi space?
Yeah, totally. And so I think, going back to what I was mentioning earlier, it's, well, one of the things DeFi is consistently looking for is a trusted stablecoin that they can build around, but also one that is a little more balanced in where the rewards sit, right? And so I think one of the things that we're seeing already, even just so soon after launch, is different. Kind of like in one example I'll give, without sharing names yet, is there's a crypto native neobank, right, that is building their whole card spend product around USDG zero. And the idea really is like, hey, like I want my users to be able to spend crypto as if it is, fiat, right? And so, but what we've been able to enable is for them to actually get towards a product where there is a card that is actually spending USDG zero on the background and is actually moving the assets seamlessly through the payment flow there. And we're also seeing certain lending protocols that are looking at building around USDG zero as the core asset. And again, I think it goes back to two reasons, right? One, a trusted asset that exists in their ecosystem, and then two, it's we have created a model where we are able to share some of the rewards back with these protocols and these ecosystems where they're not essentially just they're benefiting from the growth that they're driving, right? And as they should, right? And that's kind of core to our model where we really see stable coins as a network product, right? And the network isn't successful unless kind of like the different nodes in the network are properly incentivized to grow the asset or grow the product. And so those are kind of the core things that we focused on as we design USDG zero, and we're already seeing great pickup from it, and excited to share some partnerships in the coming weeks there.
Wow, awesome. And what about the institutional level? Does USDG zero play into the broader expansion of digital assets within institutional finance?
I think it may in the future. I think today it's very much been focused on kind of crypto native protocols and ecosystems and platforms. I think right now, if you think about where USDG zero is being deployed, it is on some of the newer and up and coming ecosystems from a crypto perspective. And while to us, things like Hyperliquid are very mainstream in like the crypto world, I think enterprises and institutions are still kind of taking their time experimenting with crypto, and usually they'll kind of like dip their toes in the waters with just Ethereum or something like that. And so I think right now we're seeing more institutional adoption of USDG, kind of the regulated issuance version, and we're seeing more of the kind of crypto native ecosystems being interested in USDG zero as a way to kind of grow their stablecoin offerings.
Got it. So we'll be tracking how it goes, and the future will show. And okay, moving on to a little bit technical part. So USDG zero is built upon LayerZero OFT, omni-chain fungible token. What enhancements does this bring for the asset as well as for cross-chain applications?
Yeah, so I think we've partnered with LayerZero here, and are leveraging their OFT standard. And I think again, one of the things that's so important here is, especially as many crypto and blockchain ecosystems pop up, the ability to drive a level of interoperability between ecosystems is very important. but it's still important to maintain a full one-to-one backing and kind of compliance of the stablecoin. And so what LayerZero enables us to do with their cross-chain messaging protocol is enables us to kind of atomically mint USDG zero against USDG that is kind of locked in a variety of vaults and kind of bridges where we're able to instantly make USDG zero available on a variety of ecosystems while still maintaining that one-to-one backing. And as well as, as we issue USDG zero on more chains, for example, something like Hyperliquid and Aptos, those two assets will actually be instantly interoperable as well. And so it's very important to us to make sure that, hey, every time USDG zero goes on a new chain, it's not sitting on an island, right? There's a way for it to benefit from the liquidity of USDG and USDG zero on other chains. And so I think, we're really excited about the model we've designed here with LayerZero, and they've been great partners. And so it's a very key piece of us growing USDG zero.
Okay, got it. So now we have a pretty deep, I would say, understanding of USDG zero, and I suggest from this part taking it back to Paxos Labs and to the second major part of today's podcast. So could you please tell us how does the team of Paxos Labs think about stablecoin infrastructure when developing products for enterprises and global organizations?
Yeah, totally. So one of the things that we think a lot about at Paxos Labs is, we believe that every platform, especially financial platform, will eventually re-platform to stablecoin rails, right? And the thing that we think about a lot is, okay, we're going to interact with enterprises that are at different parts of their journey, right? They might just be getting started with stablecoins. They may already have stablecoins. But what we are here to do is build infrastructure that gives them confidence to do more with those stablecoins, right? And so one of the things that we think about a lot, where what does the platform want to do? What do their users want to do with the stablecoins once they have them? How do we actually enable them to access the financial services that you would in the traditional banking system? And so I think it comes down to kind of three areas that we see as kind of like the next frontier once you have stablecoins on your platform. What these enterprises want to enable and their end users want is the ability to spend stablecoins, lend stablecoins, so earn yield on stablecoins, and potentially borrow stablecoins, right? Those are kind of the three things that we see. And on the spend side, we have we partnership with Rain Cards, which we're really close with, and I think that team is great. And so a lot of times when our customers want to issue Rain Cards on top of spend cards on top of any of our stablecoins, we have a great partner there. And then the two things that we're working on developing in house is the ability for these platforms to integrate yield solutions on stablecoins natively in the user experience. So no going off into a self-custodial wallet on your own and signing transactions. How do we make it as abstracted away from the user as possible, where they can one click into a variety of yield options? And then additionally, building SDKs that allow these enterprises to integrate a borrowing experience directly into their interface. And so that's kind of what we see is coming next is stablecoin infrastructure is coming into place. People are going to start to look to payments, yield, borrowing, and that's what we're here to help enable, especially via leveraging kind of on-chain markets and less so kind of traditional markets.
Got it. It's pretty detailed, and everything is in order now, so thank you. And another thing I wanted to ask you about Paxos Labs is actually how does Paxos Labs differentiate itself from firms like Fireblocks, Anchorage, or even major institutional infra providers like Galaxy Digital?
Yeah, so I think all the firms that you mentioned tend to focus a lot more on custody and enterprise custody, right? They're really looking at being kind of the provider to these enterprises who are custodying digital assets or looking to earn kind of like institutional investment opportunities on these digital assets. And so those firms tend to focus there. I see Paxos Labs as more of a developer of APIs and SDKs that can be integrated into an experience, right? in my ideal world, a lot of end users won't even know that they're using Paxos Labs products because it's so seamlessly integrated into the apps that they use and love today. They don't have to go to a Paxos Labs app or something to use us. Our goal is to be kind of the invisible infrastructure layer that provides these experiences. And so that's what we're really focused on developing: APIs, SDKs that enable kind of this utility on top of stablecoins and digital assets.
Got it. Thank you. And what are some of the other ways Paxos Labs is looking to integrate on-chain products into established platforms, if you can say?
Yeah, totally. And so I think some of the active conversations we have going on right now are really focused around stablecoin yield, right? How do I integrate a simple solution that gives my users a very seamless experience to earning stablecoin yield, right? And so that's kind of like where a lot of our focus has been, and enabling these stablecoin earn products that are directly integrated into these user interfaces. And then I think the next thing on our radar there is enabling a set of borrow use cases, right? How do we actually enable users to borrow stablecoins? And then I think beyond that, I think there's a couple of things that are very interesting to us, particularly around potentially embedded instances of perps trading, right? We're seeing a lot of demand for platforms like Hyperliquid, where there's user demand to be trading on perps markets. So I think potentially enabling that as a integrated service. And then obviously, I think the other one that's really interesting is prediction markets, right? And kind of like integrating those into existing use cases. But I think those are a little bit further out in terms of how we think of our roadmap.
Got it. And we came up so brief to the final stage of the discussion. However, the timing is almost half an hour. It was so easy going, and thanks for that. And of course, the most logical question to end today's discussion is about what awaits us in future. What should users look forward for Paxos Labs in the coming months and next year to put the notes about? So time for some teasers and announcements.
Yeah, totally. And so I think from a user perspective, right? As you see more stablecoin yield, stablecoin borrow, on-chain services integrated into your favorite apps, I think our goal is to be the infrastructure layer that's powering a lot of those experiences. And so I think when users see the powered by Paxos Labs, I hope they are excited by what the new features that they're getting in their native experience. And I think from a user perspective, that's where I expect them to see the impact of Paxos Labs products integrated straight into the apps that they use today. And then from an enterprise perspective, right, I think a lot of enterprises are looking to kind of experiment and understand what they can offer from an on-chain financial services perspective. And I hope they come talk to us and have a conversation, because I think we really deeply understand how enterprises think about adding new products to their platform. And I think we can give them a perspective on what is a way to do on-chain, what is a way to do DeFi that's kind of safe, trusted, and enterprise friendly. And we've been doing this for years, and so we have a lot of perspectives, and we're always happy to share our views on what's the best way to kind of give your users this experience in a safe way.
Well, sounds really cool, and I like the way how confident you speak about it. And so as I said, this was the final part of today's discussion. But before you go, Bhau, I have one traditional question from our team. So it's an open question, a chance to address directly to our audience, for everyone or to some exact part. So could you please go ahead with some piece of advice or a call to action, whatever you find useful for people to hear right now? Please take your time.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting question. I think something that we have found has served us really well, especially working in this space, is that there's a lot of ups and downs in crypto. Whether it's bear markets, there's regulatory changes, and there's a lot of ups and downs. I think for anyone that's building in the space that wants to come into the space, it's easy to get distracted by the kind of roller coaster that is crypto. But I think if you really take the time to look and understand and keep your head above water and understanding like the real things that blockchain can enable, it's a really exciting space to be in. And so, encourage anyone that's in the space to keep our eyes on the prize of what we're really here to enable, and don't let the lows get us too low, or don't let the highs get us too greedy. But I think despite the recent bear market, it's the right now the bear market. I've never been more excited about kind of the future of crypto and blockchain, and the role it has to play in the financial world. So I'm super excited, and I hope the viewers here are too.
Awesome. So dealt perfectly with it, and yeah, sounds really encouraging. The best ending I can expect. So every time I hear some healthy, positive vibes, that's a pleasure for me, and as well as for our viewers. Well, yes, for today that's it. Thank you very much, Bhau, for finding time to join in. I believe that was like a initial discussion, because I feel how much more things can be discussed deeper there, and I do hope to see you in more episodes, like in a few months or so, to see what's been done and what should we expect as well. So yeah, keeping in touch.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a blast. Would love to come back sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, thanks for our audience for watching us till the end, guys. My call to action would be following Bhau, following Paxos Labs on all socials to stay tuned. A lot of big things are coming, so don't miss. And yeah, of course, stay safe, everyone. See you in more episodes. Bye bye.